My name is Kat Glover, and I'm an assistant professor at the School of Design at Northumbria University in Newcastle upon Tyne, not very far away from where many of you might be if you're attending physically in Edinburgh and Glasgow in the UK, or in Scotland. I'm going to be presenting today on morality retail and the case of Dutch store crafted stories and its common good strategy. I'd like to start with an overview of the contextual environment within which the study is located. From my perspective, interested in brand, strategy, communities, and transnational storytelling. From a macro perspective, the world is becoming ever more globally fragile, said Ahmed and Berg in 2022, with geopolitical tensions, context-focused, and social issues driving behaviours. From a micro viewpoint, fashion buyers need to create sharpened strategies, they say, and there is a need for businesses to connect with ethical purchase and consumption, with retailers looking to enable a bridge of social conversation between supplier, maker, and customer. Looking at the internal landscape, many consumers are becoming more conscientious in their purchase habits. The new class of ethical consumer searching for transparent retail offers that match their own personal morals. They're tapping into a belief system connected to localized stakeholder issues, responsibilities, and social action. And the Oliver Wyman Forum in 2023 said that Generation Z particularly possess a moral compass as a core characteristic. My own research sits in the design research field, and within this identify as a critical fashion studies scholar. My work builds on a contemporary shift within design research, where the focus is moving towards considering individuals in flow within their own niche lives. I use narrative inquiry methodology, which is a narrative research genre. It takes a human-centered approach, looking to engage with subjective storytelling from multiple perspectives, privileging the self as a unique viewpoint and gathering personal accounts in relation to sociocultural factors. Distinctive features of narrative inquiry are that the research field is considered a three-dimensional narrative space with aspects of time, space, and place influencing the context and the content. That the position of the narrative inquiry researcher is active in the midst of the research field, and that it holds agency, meaning that one's autobiographical position informs the study directly and adds bias that must be considered. Practically speaking, it means that a study includes making subjective observations, notes, thoughts, words, stories, and to consider these part of key field texts, analysed and often quoted in the final research text as part of the collective sense-making procedure. Barone suggests in 2007 that the role is of researcher-storyteller, actively retelling and representing the stories that we gather. Our task as a narrative inquiry researcher is to mediate stories into being. Then there is dialogue, where the dialogic interaction is captured of all agents involved, such as between participants, objects, context, and from the point of gathering through the interpretation stages, analysis, and into the final research texts. The intention is to recruit and enlist the imagination through employing three features of dialogue, see Bruner 1986. Presupposition, which means that the creation of implicit rather than explicit meanings, and where the creation of a presuppositional background can trigger the interpretation. Subjectification, that is, the depiction of reality, comes not through an omniscient eye that views a timeless reality, but through the filter of the conscientiousness of protagonists in the story. And that we should look to source and value multiple perspectives, so beholding the world not unequivocally, but simultaneously through a set of prisms, each of which catches some part of it. As a narrative inquiry researcher holding a socially constructivist orientation, narrative inquiry methodology provides to me structure, scope, integrity, and rigor. So how does this relate to the case of Dutch store crafted stories and identifying a common good strategy? As a narrative inquiry, the operational starting point for this study into this was, of course, my own lived experience, which in turn led to a more formal, focused inquiry. And I'm going to share the entry point into this inquiry and take you briefly through procedural stages to the working hypothesis, which I hope I can open up for discussion today. Participant researcher in the physical research field, the start of the story. I'm in Amsterdam on a business trip. The sun is shining, and the canal that borders the red light district is glistening. The old cobbled marketplace that I walk over is empty of stalls, yet it is buzzing with bikes. A sign in a window catches my attention. It's in the annex of a handsome Protestant church. It says crafted stories. I follow the building around, curious to know where it takes me. I find a door, go up some stairs, past a coffee machine, into a two-tiered space filled with products, and three people who are having an intense chat and moving around objects on the shelves. I browse items on display, and the forms vary from organic, handmade, to spare, refined. The type of goods vary from functional, such as baskets, clothing, candle holders, wooden benches, to decorative, such as necklaces, bracelets, earrings, stock in trade of a high-end concept store. Prices range from double to triple digits, and I notice most products bear story labels. I take my time as I feel comfortable and relaxed. I have euros in my pocket. I consider treating myself, or I could buy some gifts for those at home. I select carefully, considering the recipient and meaning behind each choice. It occurs to me to see if I could buy the same items somewhere else, cheaper, online, or back home without the euro conversion bank charge. But I resist. It would ruin the magic, the moment of the purchase, and the feeling of finding treasures that have suddenly accrued some emotional charge. There is taste in crafted stories at work here, aesthetic, haptic, and culturally informed. Yet there is also something else. My eye is caught by a multi-coloured beaded necklace that displays a variety of pink, green, red, gold glass beads. €225, labelled Monique, special. A smiling woman approaches me. She must be the manager. I ask her about the necklace, and she says quietly, it's made by a sex worker who works locally. She makes and sells necklaces for the store. The organisation supports her to see if she can move out of sex work. There are 4 items I take to the counter to buy, and I will tell you about them. The first is a felted doll, 12 centimetres in height, 8 centimetres in width. It has angel wings and is made by the label Return to Sender. I want to give it to a friend who, in the last crafts and chats evening she hosted, unlocked something in my psyche that then helped me to go sober. I've been wanting to stop drinking alcohol for years, and my friend's thoughtful suggestions were the catalyst. This doll will be my acknowledgement of her inspiration to me. The label on the doll reads, something to you means everything to her. Guardian angel. Let this guardian angel guide and protect you. Handmade by Shanti, close quote. There was a drawing of a woman. Shanti? Who knows? Open quote. We sell handcrafted products made by women in the poorest regions of the world to help them make a living for themselves and their families. Our revenue goes directly returned to sender, which contributes to a better wage for the artisans. Your purchase makes all the difference. Thanks to you, thousands of women around the world have been able to make the step towards a better living, close quote. I'm cynical. I do not have any proof of my singular power to transform quite so many lives. Yet the angel doll is a gesture, and my friend will like it. The other 3 items are a double-strand bracelet featuring a dark murky green aventurine gemstone. It comes in a small plastic packet, which almost makes me consider not buying it, as I'm trying to avoid plastic packaging, but I do. It's wrapped around a small card stating the brand A Beautiful Story and says motivation, personal growth, confidence. I also buy a heart-shaped bar on with a silver wool rope and bright yellow vintage clip-on retro earrings. The total amount comes to more than I expect, and when I do the conversion to sterling on my phone, it is a lot. Would I buy these if I wasn't on a business trip abroad? I reassure myself, and I feel upbeat about these gifts. The manager appears behind the wooden counter. We exchange pleasantries. She asks who I'm giving these gifts to, and I tell her. She gives me the yellow earrings for free, just because, she says. And then, do you want a coffee? She offers me a high bar stool to sit on, and I drink a free, fresh, good coffee, and we talk. I take her business card when she offers it to me. Grietje has invited me to visit her where she lives, and she tells me that she likes her work. She is the pastor here in the shop, not just the retail manager, she says with pride. I leave with a clutch of small little bags with stickers and a printed tagline. Crafted stories, it says. CS, we craft stories, let them craft yours. I crossed the canal back into the red light district, towards the impressive Gothic Renaissance building of Amsterdam Centraal, towards the hotel, airport, and UK. At home, I message my friends to set up dates to give them their gifts. And every time I pass over a small Crafted Stories bag and watch them open their presents, I tell them why I picked that gift for them and notice the sweet serotonin high rush through my body. For weeks after, the whole experience and memory of smiles results in the feel-good hormone surging in my body. And I know I've gained far more than I've spent. Over the days that follow, though, one item continues to resonate with me: the Monique necklace on the bust mannequin. The price was high, and in terms of the economies of scale, thinking through the basic cost of component parts, profit for the maker, markup for Crafted Stories, how did selling this one necklace compare to earnings in the sex industry? How can selling a necklace translate into adequate alternative income? The retail manager mentioned that Crafted Stories also employs sex workers in store as a way of helping them financially. And in the organization's view, they are supporting vulnerable women. This leads me to formalize Crafted Stories as a research project that I want to develop. The formulation of a narrative inquiry taking a critical and design thinking approach involves articulating points of curiosity first, such as, why was I drawn to stay in the store for a while? What made me think of purchasing gifts for my nearest and dearest? Why did the retail manager call herself a pastor? What is the story behind the Monique special necklace? And were the three women in the store suppliers of products for the store? These initial questions then become refined into formal questions that provide the inquiry puzzle. They became, what defining characteristics of a consumer journey was I actually taken on? How could I collect personal subjective stories of lived experience that would provide an insight into this journey? How could I summarize the experience that I felt of enchantment and feel-good retail and giving to others through purchase and gifting? Could morality retail describe it? Is there a theoretical basis for this term, see extant literature? And what evidence in primary research can be found to support a working hypothesis of this as a phenomenon? And was it a sense of common good that could describe the strategic approach of the brand, or indeed the agency of the retail manager, pastor? A narrative design requires identifying the boundaries of a study. Firstly, the phenomenon, which are narratives of lived experience, and one looks to find these in evidence in the three-dimensional research field. This means context, which is time, May to August 2023, space, Crafted Stories, physical store in Amsterdam, and then teams online with the participants in Amsterdam, place, in person, online. The units of analysis in question in this study are specifically stories as lived and then told, looking at tangible and intangible stories embodied in brand environment. For example, the people, products, and the labels in Crafted Stories, and their employment as an organizational tactics for the promotion. And also, key boundary to understand are the keyword terms here. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy states that morality can be used in two distinct broad senses, either descriptively, to refer to certain codes of conduct put forward by a society or group, such as a religion, or accepted by an individual for her own behavior, or normatively, to refer to a code of conduct that, given specified conditions, would be put forward by all rational people. And also the term common good is defined again by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy as those facilities, whether material, cultural, institutional, that the members of a community provide to all members in order to fulfill a relational obligation that they all have to care for certain interests that they have in common. The analysis stage in narrative inquiry collects all primary data. The data collection stage. We gathered secondary data through looking at extant literature, and the primary collection of data involved a field visit to Amsterdam and in-store, working with the participant, the expert participant, which was a retail manager slash pastor, which is in the midst of the research field, carrying out observations, which were physical in-store, and gathering field text, such as photographs, leaflets, artifacts, such as the products I bought, making notes, journal entries, and having informal conversations. The second stage of the primary collation of data involved using the photographs and collecting them together and giving them to the researcher, to the interview participant. And they were used there as story prompts in a semi-structured interview, using observations, which were part of watching the audio recording of the interview later, and the audio-visual recording itself. The analysis stage in narrative inquiry would collect all primary data and map it according to narrative sense-making procedures. As a process, it involved extracting thick quotations from Richard Bach, from the interview, looking for core narrative indicators and drawing out narrative coda. The synthesis stage centered around mapping data into narrative themes, which act as interpretive illuminations as to if and how crafted stories engages in retail morality, or morality retail, and a common good strategy. The aim of this stage is to identify correlations and narrative coherences. Examples of some of the narrative themes extrapolated included that crafted stories operates as a retailer. It also takes on the role of a missionary storyteller, promoting itself as a backer of women who need support and communities that need help. It offers morality as individually linked to the advocacy of a personal code, with the retail manager calling herself a pastor and talking about why she loves working with the women rather than talking about selling product. Another theme is that it seems to sell ideological values of the common good, communicating a message that takes shape under its own Christian and organizational principles. That crafted stories views those who walk through the door as citizens with stories to share, and that its organization will be there to listen with a sense of a common belief system and supporting conversion opportunities. In these narrative themes, and I've shared a few, I'm also aware that I see myself as narrative inquirer, consumer, customer, citizen with my own morals at play. In the experience, perhaps the environment spoke to me as a lapsed Roman Catholic, as I call myself, and I now identify as a humanist, feminist, and as I mentioned, critical fashion scholar, and that perhaps the cost-benefit exchange that was part of my transactional experience for crafted stories meant I was, to some degree, seduced by retail with a morality twang. To conclude, the narrative themes that were drawn out led to a working hypothesis. Crafted Stories does seem to engage with morality retail, manifesting its own version of a common good strategy through touch points, attributes of products, experience, service, people, and attitudes. The benefits of morality retail have also been observed for both retailer and consumer, as engaging in the process provides a dialogic flow of feel-good philanthropy and a long-lasting descriptive sense that one is acting on behalf of a common good. However, moral heuristics play into who benefits. The question, therefore, that I open up here for discussion in this conference is that if retail can trade morality, then how far will retailers go to convert their customers? Thank you.